we invested before the product was there. I think we invested when the product had evolved from a custom development kind of provider approach to actually like a platform approach. And now we're investing again when the traction is coming. So that's another big belief we always have as founders, which we really liked with your approach at Blitzy. Do the difficult things first, because that will help you to do the easy things later. If you look at Gen AI spend, it was like 0 3 years ago. It was like 10 billion, like 2024, 40 billion last year. Who knows what it's going to be this year? You could look at $1.5 trillion of engineering spend globally. However you cut it, this is going to be the largest market. It was a must-do deal for us for certain.
Julian, so good to see you, man. This is your third time investing in Blitzy, all the way back over 2 years ago, pre-seed, seed, and now jumping to a large growth round, obviously, so a huge step up. But I'd love you to just quickly introduce yourself, and then let's talk about what you saw in the early days and what you've seen now to cause you guys to triple down.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks Brian, for having me. Super excited to be here and chat again. As you said, we've been knowing each other now for more than 2 years, actually. With Picus Capital, as you know very well, as you experienced firsthand, we're a global, truly pre-seed oriented investment firm. We invest in exceptional founders in the earliest days where companies like still change. So really like pre-product, pre-revenue, and it's very much like still an idea, an exceptional team that wants to build something like in a massive market. We're actually a privately financed firm, as I think we talked a lot about. We have a single LP structure. We have some growth capital, which we can talk about later. But for us, we really invest 15, 20 years. Yeah. So we don't have the pressure to deploy. We don't have the pressure to exit. So for us, backing founders in truly massive markets is like the most important kind of identity for us as an investment partner. And that was truly something that we've seen with you guys when we met in the very early days.
Yeah, that long time horizon was really attractive to us when we first met you, because it wasn't just something that you said, but it was structural, right? And you say, we're willing to take a very long bet on the market, right? This could play out in many, many different ways, but you had a real appreciation for solving customer problems. So much so we were hosting customers in your guys' offices in New York to make them think we had a little bit of a bigger office space back when it was just a couple of us a few years ago. And so it was the customer centricity paired with the long time horizon that was incredibly attractive to us as a firm. So maybe you can rewind the clock. What do you remember about the early days and the initial investment of Blitzy, and then now that we're announcing this large growth round, what has remained consistent, and then what has surprised you?
Yeah, I think something that truly stood out when we met in the very early days, and I think we had the first meetings when there wasn't even really a pitch deck, right? So I think for us, what stood out is like you and Sid, you've been both kind of masters of your craft. Like you've been truly exceptional at everything that you have done in your careers. And you've been, from the early days, truly customer driven and obsessive about pain points that you personally experienced. I remember it was if I remember correctly, a pro bono project you've been both doing kind of throughout your studies at Harvard, kind of seeing a small business, trying to help them with software development. They're spending $500,000 on a 6-month project to a custom software development agency. And then just the idea, like with all the tools and the innovation that was happening in the code development space and the custom software building space, which back then was still in the early inning, but already then you could deliver an outcome to the customers that was so much more impactful versus the status quo. But for us, this drive of like being truly like uniquely differentiated as a founding team, being customer centric in everything that you have been doing and that you have been like thriving to deliver, has been like truly unique for us. And that's something that I still see today. I think for us, kind of being able to host you in our office in New York, where you brought customers. I think you had like an hour meeting with us and then 5 hours meeting with your customers. But the desire to come down from Boston, like meeting customers like in person, spending time with them, and then actually listening to customer feedback, right? I mean, we can talk about this more, but like the evolution of Blitzy was obviously a little bit driven by what you learned internally in delivering feedback to your kind of customers, but also how the market was kind of desiring kind of a product that you've been able to build and that you've been able to deliver. And I think that truly stood out to us from day one until today, the desire that customers have to work with you as a team, like the very positive feedback we've received from early development partner conversations to now some of your largest kind of like businesses that you've been working with, which is why we've been so excited to triple down, right? We invested before the product was there. I think we invested when the product had evolved from a custom development kind of provider approach to actually like a platform approach. And now we're investing again when the traction is coming. So I think that was truly exciting to us to see this continuous step function of improvement over the 2 years.
Yeah, and you've been a close advisor because while we had the pro bono project, the first paid customer was actually in financial services, which has become our largest segment by far, right? Serving now like some of the largest banks in the world, but starting all the way back with 50 or 100-person financial service firms as some of the early customers. So that's a huge focus area for you as a firm. I think a third of your portfolio is represented in sort of fintech. So you're able to uniquely appreciate that if we are serving what is a very, very hard customer base with incredibly high expectations, that we were on to doing something that was really, really valuable. So maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, no, I think financial services is truly a trust business after all. And I would also say you can't vibe code trust, right? It's it's a truly relationship-driven business. It's a data-intensive business. It's a business in an industry that kind of stems from a lot of complexity. And yes, our portfolio, we manage $1.5 billion in private capital. Probably more than a third is exposed to financial services, from actual financial services provision, insurance, lending, banking, to software for financial services companies. I was a financial services investment banker for 10 years, like working with banks. And I think if you would look at complexity of the tech stack, the sensitivity of the data, the regulatory impact on how data is managed and stored, but then also the necessity and desire to invest in technology. I think if you look at JP Morgan, I think it's like 10 billion a year, 2 billion AI, Bank of America, like 18 billion a year. These companies are investing so much money into technology, they're investing so much money into AI, but everything needs to be the best of the best to become production ready. And that was something that always fascinated us over the years. We, for multiple years, have been spending time with the CTOs, head of engineering, like even the CFOs, COOs at all these large banks. And I've always been trying to understand like where are the value creation opportunities to deploy tech in the right way. And they have big model risk management team to understand, okay, there's a black box model, data comes in, decisions come out. Am I discriminating customers? Like, am I mistreating kind of how credit decisions should be made? It's like a very sensitive topic. Yeah. So the initial value creation opportunities were a lot of times in use vertical players for some customer success tools, like use better like data ingestion engines, but there was really like no transformational kind of opportunities for banks to like invest and truly like step function like the change of innovation in their firms. And then suddenly in the last 2 years, I think everything moved from it's too risky to use AI to it's too risky to not use AI. The only thing that stayed the same is I think there was a lack of understanding and there was chaos. Yeah. Like the key metric that they tracked is how much are we spending on AI, how many people are like using AI, but it was not feasible for them to track ROI. Yep. You have too many different teams, right? You have from the small branches, how to engage with customers, over customer success and service centers and call centers, and then like credit decision engines and pricing, and then you have multiple divisions in each banks, like a lot of times multiple regions. So it was a lot of complexity, and I think where Blitzy in our conversations with these customers over the years truly came in, it's like the Latin phrase, ordo ab chaos, bring order into chaos. Yep. Like AI adoption is so big, multi-billion dollars for all of these banks, but it wasn't orchestrated. Yep. And the lack of orchestration, the lack of structure really impeded their ability to deliver ROI in the trustworthy way that they need. So that was for us transformational, how we've seen it evolve over the last couple of years and how Blitzy really fit into this whole bring structure, bring order into the chaos of AI adoption.
And obviously we serve kind of like every major industry, but financial services is in our DNA. We are by definition an orchestration platform, right? But there is all of these extreme expectations that from a sort of security and compliance perspective that we built with on day zero because we started with financial services. So like we're shocked. We're like, of course we can deploy in your infra. Of course we follow a responsible AI framework. Of course there's explainability and traceability in our product because we started with financial services, like those were day zero requirements, right? And so when we move into, now we're setting up a federal or a government arm, right? We're actually incredibly well prepared to deploy into that environment because of where we started. And these aren't decisions that you can make ad hoc, right? These are sort of core decisions in how you store anything, right? Which we don't store code, we deploy in premise, we store embeddings, right? And so everything about the technology design has been built for the most secure environments because we started there, right? So it's a huge advantage for us as a firm today.
And I think that's also like the DNA of you as founders, right? We love people who do the hard thing first to then do the easy things later once you build enablement. there's a lot of companies that generate traction incredibly fast. If it's like supporting coders, engineers, sit in the IDE, like build very fast, like customer kind of adoption by providing small ROEs, 30, 40% engineering efficiency, enable an engineer with 2, 3 kind of like automated software engineers. I think on the prosumer side, there have been companies that have been growing really, really fast, but you a lot of times hear questions about defensibility, where does the moat come from, like how do I create stickiness with my customers? So that's another big belief we always have as founders, which we really liked with your approach at Blitzy. Do the difficult things first, because that will help you to do the easy things later. If you do the easy things first, you will run into the hard problems down the road eventually.
Yeah, which goes back to the attraction of you guys having Picus Capital. We're like, what we're about to go through is technical risk. There's significant technical risk. This is very, very hard. We can provide value right away, but our end vision has technical risk, right? There's no market risk if we can reach this end vision here of doing large amounts of work, hand it off to a system with a bunch of inference cost and getting back large amounts of work back, right? And so it's always, can we get there, and what's the fast path to get there while having an incredibly defensible platform? And so that's fine, right? This is so big on the other end from a technical risk perspective, right? And you guys are taking a customer-centric view to get there. Like, we are willing to wait for whatever time horizon, 15, 20 years it takes, because the opportunity is so large. Now, there's about 2 years of intensive building deep IP to then have explosive growth in the enterprise right now, which is what we're experiencing. But you don't get that if the month after the pre-seed check, you're just getting like hammered for like your month-over-month revenue growth, right? Which is sort of like the YC mindset, by the way. It's like, let's do something quick, let's get like really, really fast iteration, which is fine. There's a lot of value in that. But we had a very deliberate view on what we wanted to build, what the market was ultimately going to look like, and we skated ahead of the puck, assuming the transformer architecture was going to get heavy investment, and these models were going to get much, much better. And those intersected really in the middle of last year, and we saw this insane enterprise growth, but all direct to enterprise, so none of the sort of bottoms up, low, high churn revenue. It's all very, very sticky and very, very high value. So what caused you? Obviously, you made the pre-seed. You doubled down again, but now you're coming in with what I would call a significant investment for your guys' growth firm, right? And so, what caused you? You guys have unbelievable returns based on the early investment. You could have said, "Hey, we're good," right? But every time you do a deal, you're underwriting again, right? Another huge leap forward. And so, talk through the thought process between you and the firm to sort of triple down on Blitzy here.
Yeah, look, I mean, the venture capital's job is to enable founders to deliver like sizable outcomes, and it's always a probability weighting. I really like your example of, like, use YC as an example. There's other like early incubators where there's a lot of businesses that are looked at like on a very like for like basis, and I think there's an over proportionate kind of credit being allocated for revenue being a driver of like validation. I think it's never been easier to generate revenue than it is today. And a VC jobs is truly to see through into the future and probability weight what de-risks a given outcome. So in our mind, what you all have been delivering in terms of exceptional time to close, like exceptionally efficient sales processes, which shows kind of the validation and the need on the customer side, like significant contract values, which large enterprises, which is very non-trivial for an early stage startup to do. I mean, we've seen it many times over. Even if your product is truly differentiated, truly pristine and kind of exceptional, there is still the hesitancy to work with earlier companies. And early can mean you don't have $100 million in the bank. You haven't been around for 10 years. Like, enterprises are very defensible in their purchase decisions, as you know better than anybody. But that you have been delivering this just shows how exceptionally strong the perceived value is. And then obviously once you're on the side of the enterprise, once you've been delivering, I think the value creation you guys have been able to deliver, and we've been able to see and follow, which is always our idea with the growth fund. We want kind of early access, but also like information advantage in a way, which we have obviously like participating in this journey with you guys together. I think that's really second to none if we look at our kind of very broad global portfolio in terms of performance at the enterprise level that we have seen. And lastly, I would say in venture capital, people always talk about power law. There's going to be the 1 out of 100, the 1 out of 500 companies that's truly transformational to a venture firm's life cycle. We probability weight what the potential outcome is. If I believe if I look at the 100% success of any type of venture that we have invested in, I think the pie is nowhere bigger than here. Mm-hmm. It's one of the fastest growing markets. However, you cut if you look at Gen AI spend, it was like 0 3 years ago. It was like 10 billion, like 2024, 40 billion last year. Who knows what it's going to be this year? You could look at $1.5 trillion of engineering spend globally. However you cut it, this is going to be the largest market. It's our job to put a probability on it. I think we have a very good feeling about you as a team, what you've been delivering, how you're serving your customers, how the customers love the product, the people that are basically standing in line to get your time and access. But also the market is just the biggest market. It's a truly generational opportunity to go after. So for us, it was kind of a no-brainer, having seen you execute, having seen the customers, how they interact with you, and combining that with the size of the opportunity. It was a must-do deal for us for the third time.
Yeah, and our rate limiter at this point is really bringing people onto Blitzy to then make sure we're further servicing all the accounts that are trying to come in and use the platform. And so we're hiring incredibly fast, right? We're hiring here in Boston, which has a great talent pool of unbelievable go-to-market people, unbelievable engineers, right? But you've been in this unique position where you're over 2 years, you've been able to watch the firm from a culture perspective. So let's assume you're one of these amazing engineers or one of these amazing go-to-market operators here in Boston. Why should they make the leap to come join Blitzy?
Yeah, I mean, beyond working on the largest opportunity that you can really work on if you want to be in the field of AI and innovation, if you want to work with not only on the largest opportunity, but with the largest businesses in the world. Yep. I think eventually 90% of the Fortune 100 will be Blitzy customers. Yep. So you will have exposure to how the largest companies in the world across all industries think about innovation, how they think about not only running efficient organizations, but actually how do they build new product? How do they think about their respective customer needs? So I think it's an opportunity to really be at the forefront of innovation, how the future of the economy will look like in a way, which I think is truly exceptional. But from a cultural perspective, the speed with which you all have been delivering in this, as I said it before, customer-centric way, that's what everybody should be striving to work in. You want to be working in an environment where you have an empowering culture. Yeah. It's an entrepreneurial culture where everybody can take ownership of their own kind of workflows, of their own kind of responsibilities. Everybody can suggest, everybody's enabled, everybody's empowered. I've met so many of your kind of employees, and everybody has this drive and energy to take ownership. I know you and Sid, both as the founders, you've been always very open to feedback, right? It's a very productive relationship that I feel we have. You always you have strong views, but you indulge in our feedback. We have good, productive conversations. And I think that's what you want as a kind of new joiner. If you think about your career, if you think about where you can have true, meaningful impact, you want to work with exceptionally hardworking, smart people that are really changing the way of how the economy is built and enabled. And I think that's what you can get at Blitzy. Yeah, we're super thankful for your partnership, super thankful for you always being picking up the phone right away, quick to hop on with anything, and continue to bring people into the Blitzy ecosystem. It's been so valuable, and I'm excited that we get a chance to continue to deepen the partnership and work together. Thanks, brother. Likewise. Thanks for everything, and we're just getting started. Yep.